Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Want to talk about the assassination of John F. Kennedy in light of something new that I realized. JFK is remembered for giving the speech talking about secret societies and conspiracies operating within the U.S. government and media. Where he was killed, Dealey Plaza, what I always talked about in regards to the location of his death is how George Dealey, which the plaza was named after, how he was a Scottish Rite Freemason, just like how George Washington's a Scottish Rite Freemason, just like how the Scottish Rite has their North American headquarters, the House of the Temple, established in Washington, D.C., the city named after the Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. Always focused on that. But I didn't realize that George Dealey, his claim to fame was that he owned a media company. And his media company, one of the things they controlled was the Dallas Morning News. It said that the last thing JFK ever signed was a copy of the Dallas Morning News, November 22nd, 1963. So remember, when JFK addressed secret societies and conspiracies going on within the nation, he was speaking at a conference that was for the press. And then where he is killed ends up being in a place named after a member of a secret society who was a powerful person in the world of the press, in the world of media. Again, some of JFK's remarks from April 27, 1961. He read, "We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations." Okay. So, part of what got me going on this morning is, well, first of all, it's January 11th, 111. The name Kennedy in Gematria has a 111 value. We talked about that with the most recent death in the cursed family. Woman who died in 2019 from the Kennedy family. But another reason is because somebody commented on my last video about the death of Neil Peart, where again I talked about a celebrity dying and the numbers 38 and 118, and they left a comment about how dumb and how random it was and how I was just making things up. And, you know, that's what people do, right? They come across, they have no idea what they're talking about, they start running their mouth. Most people don't realize they have, you know, one mouth on their face that has two eyes, two ears, two nostrils. The thing you're supposed to use the least is your mouth. I guess the person out there might be saying, but I used my fingers on my two hands to type. Okay, same point. You're running, you're running off about something you haven't taken the time to research. So anyway, this number 38 and 118, it touches so many deaths throughout history. One of the most infamous is JFK's, and we'll get to that in a moment. But again, I just want to go back to how the U.S. was notified of the death of JFK by Walter Cronkite, and I want people to listen carefully to what Walter Cronkite said when he announced that JFK was dead. Again, the whole reason I figured out this code of letters and numbers, which is gematria, is from paying attention to the way the media uses numbers that are very specific that don't need to be. And you start to realize things like how the number 38 shows up around death all the time in media and even in Hollywood. Now listen to Walter Cronkite announce the death of JFK.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
Some 38 minutes ago. And somebody listening might think that's random, but why not just say a little more than a half hour ago, about 40 minutes ago? No, it's 38. And remember, 38 is not an arbitrary number. Again, just to go to Hollywood, the film Murder by Numbers, they changed 2 letters to numbers, the E to a 3 and the B to an 8. 3883. The word murder is 38 and 83. In the recent film put out on Netflix, The Irishman, about the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, a person who disappeared by the numbers. In that film, they play the clip of Walter Cronkite saying that exact thing about some 38 minutes ago. Later in the film, you see Jimmy Hoffa get murdered in a house with the number 83. And they make sure to show you the 83 about 50 times before he's murdered there, because Robert De Niro has the address written down in his hand, which he keeps looking at. Plus, they show them go in and out of the house multiple times with door number 83. 38, 83, numbers of death and murder all throughout history. Not arbitrary that in 1983, the band The Police put out the song Murder by Numbers, where killing is the sport of the elite, and it's as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3. The star in that film, Murder by Numbers, Sandra Bullock, 83. The word killing, 38. The word death, 38. The word RIP, 38. The practice of coding numbers into words is gematria. Gematria is 38. So is English. This practice of coding numbers into words comes from Kabbalah. We'll talk about that in regards to the death of JFK. Kabbalah. Kabbalah is 38. It's a Jewish practice. The word Jew is 38. The song, Gematria, the killing name by the band Slipknot. The first member of that band to die died at age 38. Again, infamous number that a lot of very famous people have died by. 38, 118, they come together again and again. So when Walter Cronkite announced to the nation that JFK had died some 38 minutes ago, it wasn't an accident. Nor was the location. Dallas, Texas. Death, 38 with the alphabetic order. Death with Jewish gematria, which is based on the old order of the English letters when they were in the Latin alphabet. Death is 118 in that cipher, like Dallas, Texas is 118. A lot of conspiracies about was Jackie Kennedy involved in the assassination. When JFK died, it was Jackie Kennedy's 118th day of her age. And when Jackie Kennedy would go on to die on May 19th, which is the 139th day of the year, Freemasonry is 139. Again, it's Freemasonry that's based in Kabbalah. Again, Dealey Plaza named after a Freemason, George Washington a Freemason. Masonry, large and in charge, Masonry operating by this code daily. Anyhow, when Jackie Kennedy died on that date, May 19th, 94, it was a date with 38 numerology and a date with 118 numerology. And another infamous death in history, Tupac Shakur, he died on a date with 38 and 118 numerology. He died on September 13th, 13/9 like 139. Freemasonry's 139, Tupac Shakur's 139, Jackie Kennedy dead on the 139th day of the year. Again, Masonry controls everything from government to media to the world of entertainment. And they do everything by this code. Because Masonry is based in Kabbalah, and this code of letters and numbers and dates is very important to Kabbalists. So, 38, 118, it's all over the place. You know, if you go to my blog and type in 38, 118, you'll be there for hours just reading through documentations of people who've died by these same numbers throughout history. And I'm sure there's a whole lot more that I could add to that list that I just haven't researched yet or haven't come across. But these numbers are no accident. Okay, so we got Walter Cronkite, some 38 minutes ago, number of death. We have a location of death, Dallas, Texas. His wife, the death comes on her 118th day of her age. Now, from JFK's birthday to the death was his 178th day of his age. If you're new here, 4 base ciphers. You want to know all 4. The alphabetic order, where Kabbalah is 38. The alphabetic order and rules numerology, where Kabbalah is 20. Notice Kabbalah and death, both 38 and 20. Keep in mind, it is 2020. Already a lot of deaths to start the year. Dead rock stars, rock is 20, death is 20. Could be a bad year for rock stars, especially those who are age 67 like Neil Peart. Another number of death and killing. Blood Sacrifice 67, Satanic 67, Killer 67. Anyhow, the base ciphers, alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, the reverse alphabetic order, and the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And that last one, 52, that's a big one. All of these things sum to 52. Kabbalah, the cabal, government, authority, president, White House. Big number there, 52. The day JFK died was a date with 52 numerology. It was also a date with 25 numerology. Notice death is 97 and 25. 97 is the 25th prime number. So those numbers have a mathematical relationship. JFK died on a fitting date. There's other numerology to this date as well, which we'll get to, including the 115 date numerology, very special, Assassins 115, Masonics 115, Killings 115. There's also a date with 96 numerology, Freemason 96. But anyhow, we're just establishing why 38. Again, this code of letters and numbers comes from Kabbalah. Kabbalah has a light half and a dark half. The dark half's known as the clip-off, and it's about hurting people. It's the half of the code that's used when we're talking about murder by numbers. And again, murder, death, killing, RIP, Kabbalah, English, Gematria, Jew, they're all 38. Now keep in mind JFK was killed in a Lincoln, and notice Lincoln has the gematria of 38. Of course, Lincoln was assassinated as well. A lot of parallels between the deaths of JFK and Lincoln that go on the Jordan Maxwell parallels. And you know gematria, you can about triple the list. Anyhow, just look at Lincoln and murder. JFK was riding in a Lincoln limousine when he was killed. Lincoln and murder have gematria overlap in 3 of the 4 base ciphers. And that 34 matters because RFK ended up getting killed at the address 3400, his brother, which we'll talk about. When Lincoln died, it was his 63rd day of his age. JFK was killed in 63. Again, so many parallels between those two assassinations. Abraham's 44 like kill. JFK was the 44th term president, the 35th overall president, Catholic 35, Catholic also 46, like the 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. JFK, the only Catholic president, number 35, dead at age 46. The Jesuits, who operate within the Catholic Church, had a lot to do with Lincoln's assassination. Another president who's often talked about alongside the death of JFK is George Herbert Walker Bush. And the Kennedy dynasty in politics was truly replaced by the Bush dynasty. George H.W. Bush was the head of the CIA, a vice president, and a president. From his birthday to JFK's assassination was 163 days later, which is the 38th prime number. And again, we just talked about this with the death of Neil Peart. Geddy Lee, the singer for Rush, where Neil Peart was the drummer for the band, the death came 163 days after Geddy Lee's birthday. And that's what we see in these band deaths. So often it's the drummer who goes first because drummer's 38. And so often it's synced with the front man. We've covered it numerous times over the years. Latest example was yesterday, which a number of people watched that video and said, "This is so dumb. All of this is coincidence." And every person who left that comment, again, has no idea what they are talking about. They have no idea that I've done thousands of proofs showing the same thing, that I've written a book that's 800 pages long, which is undeniable, which even those lame brain retards, if they read it, would be like, oh, maybe this isn't so dumb. Maybe this isn't a coincidence. But that's the problem in America. It is a population of chemically dumbed down retards, which is the word. Retard means stunted. It's hard to find anyone in America who's not brain dead, fucking retarded, stunted. And they're all just so quick to speak and denounce things that they have no clue about. Now, coming back to George Herbert Walker Bush, who was a member of a secret society, Skull and Bones, probably the most infamous in the nation. Remember, George Herbert Walker Bush's name equals 118, like Dallas, Texas. He was the 41st president. When you write out 41, it's 118. When you write out Skull and Bones, it's 41. When you write out Dallas, it's also 41. And remember, we said George Herbert Walker Bush wouldn't make it past age 94, and he wouldn't make it past November of 2018, which he did not. He died on 11/30, 11 plus 30, 41. Did a lot of work on his death. The video I had on it had almost 1 million views when it was deleted by Google. Google does not want the truth out there because they want lame brain retards who don't have any information and who like having no information. Now about Skull and Bones. They identify by the number 322 because it's the number on their building at Yale. And don't forget, Yale equals 43, like how H.W. was the 43rd vice president, like how his son Jeb was the 43rd governor of Florida, like how his other son Shrub was the 43rd president in an election that came down to Florida, which equals 43, like Yale, like Bulldogs, like Masonic. But anyway, this 322 number, it's a special number. Things such as Abrahamic religions equals 322. Ancient mystery religions equals 322. That's where Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Kundalini, all these things that are studied by the occult and secret societies, that's what they're a part of, the ancient mystery religions. And this 322, Genesis 322, the 78th verse of Genesis. Genesis equals 78. So does Scottish Rite. The Bushes have their photos up in the Scottish Rite House of the Temple, or their portraits. But the 78th verse of Genesis, Genesis 3:22, in the New International Version and the King James Version codes out to 3:22. It begins, "And the Lord God said, the man is now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever." The tree of life is the physical model for Kabbalah. Tree of life equals 52, like Kabbalah, like the Kabbalah, like Gematria, like we were talking about earlier. How JFK died on the 52 date numerology. Again, in the Kabbalah ritual that was. Kabbalah murder ritual. So 322, Genesis, speaks about the tree of life, good and evil, like how Kabbalah has a good half about understanding spiritual ascension and an evil half about spell casting and hurting others, the clip-off. So, in light of it being the 78th verse, it is also interesting that the name Kennedy is 78, special number. Moving on. 118, number of death, where RFK would later be killed, which we'll elaborate on more, was on the 34th parallel, murder 34, Lincoln 34, and the 118th meridian, death 118, Dallas, Texas 118. When JFK was killed, it was the 187th year of the nation's existence. JFK assassination, what it's remembered as, equals 187. There's a cipher where you multiply each letter of the alphabet times 6. So A's 6, B's 12, C's 18, D's 24, so on. JFK assassination in that cipher equals 1122, like the date he was killed, November 22nd. 11 plus 22 is 33. Kennedy's 33, Masonry's 33, Secrecy's 33, Federal's 33, Order's 33. Number of Masonic session, like the 33 pillars on the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., named after the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. And by the way, Washington, D.C.'s 187, George Washington's 187, Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry's 187, and the media company that George Dealey owned, because again, JFK was killed in the middle of Dealey Plaza, the company that he owned was A.H. Bello Corporation, which equals 187. And again, he gave the speech about secret societies to a gathering for the press. And then he ends up getting killed again in Dealey Plaza, named after a member of a secret society who was a powerful member of the press. The film that was put out to remember the JFK assassination, the Zapruder film. Zapruder was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, just like George Dealey, just like George Washington. Notice Zapruder film is 175 and 67, like Lee Harvey Oswald is 175 and 67. And there's so much more to Oswald. But you just got to say, what are the odds? The word killer is 67. Shows up around death all the time. The name Zapruder alone has gematria of 109, 107, and 44, like shooting has gematria of 109, 44, and 107. Zapruder also has gematria of 46, like Catholic, like how JFK was killed at age 46. The word sacrifice is 46. Genesis 46 begins with a sacrifice. JFK's full name, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, also sums to 107. His life ended with the shooting. When you write out 175, it equals 107. 175. Number that shows up in Lee Harvey Oswald and the Zapruder film. Number that shows up on September 11th, which is another story. Flight 175, the second building supposedly to crash into the World Trade Centers, which was another Masonic ritual. When JFK got married to Jackie Kennedy, it was his 107th day of his age. And this is true for all of the world of celebrity. It seems that all of these people are in arranged marriages done by this code, from the White House to, the silver screen Hollywood. And, the Kennedys, they were actors as well as politicians. It's like Reagan, just like Trump. Also interesting, when you write out 175, the number encoded in the Zapruder film and Lee Harvey Oswald, it also sums to 307, which is the 63rd prime, like the year of the assassination. And that number shows up here with George Dealey as well. Again, Dealey Plaza, named after George Dealey. By the way, George Dealey died on February 26th, the 57th day of the year. We'll talk more about 57 in a moment, but Scottish Rite's 57. George is 57, like George Washington, the Scottish Rite Freemason, inaugurated at age 57. 4 of the first 6 presidents, age 57, they took office. But he was the owner of the A.H. Bello Corporation, a media company. They were the publisher of the Dallas Morning News and other media publications. Notice A.H. Bello Corporation 187, the Dallas Morning News 307, the 63rd prime. John Fitzgerald Kennedy also 233, like the Dallas Morning News. 233 is the 13th Fibonacci number, Dallas 13. If you write out 13 as a word, it sums to 117. The day JFK gave his speech about secret societies to the press, that was April 27th, the 117th day of the year. If you write out 13 as a word, it equals 117. Think about the Order of the Illuminati established by Adam Weishaupt on May 1st. Order of the Illuminati equals 117. It was established with 13 families. The same year this nation began with 13 stripes, 13 colonies, 1776. 233, by the way, is also the 51st prime number. Adam Weishaupt equals 51. He established the Order of the Illuminati on May 1st, 5-1, also known as the Bavarian Illuminati. Secret societies, that's what the Order of the Illuminati was. 13 families. So again, JFK gave the speech about secret societies to the press, ended up being dead in Dealey Plaza. A man who was part of a secret society, a man who owned the press. Isn't it interesting that the press equals 38? And how the announcement from the media started with some 38 minutes ago. John F. Kennedy died. And again, the date of that address, April 27, 1961. That was also a date with 111 numerology. Again, Kennedy equals 111, so a fitting day to address the press for a Kennedy. Okay. So we talked about the 38-118, JFK dead in Dallas, Texas 118 on Jackie Kennedy's 118th day of her age. Talked about murder by numbers. Let's talk about a few other things, since Dealey Plaza was named after a Scottish Rite Freemason. JFK met with Pope Paul VI on July 2nd, 1963. And there's two things that are interesting about this date. One is it's 143 days before JFK's assassination. The other is that it's also a span of 144 days, both interesting numbers. A lot of parallels again between Lincoln and Kennedy. Lincoln was shot on 14/4, April 14th. Talk more about that in a moment, but let's start with the 143. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is 143. And from Pope Paul VI's birthday, which was September 26th, to JFK's death was 57 days later. It was also 1 month and 27 days. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry also sums to 127. Never forget Pearl Harbor, a Masonic ritual on December 7th, 127, and 9/11, a Masonic ritual, buildings 1, 2, and 7 in New York. 1 month, 27 days. But that 57, Scottish Rite's 57. We just talked about how George Dealey, George 57, dead on the 57th day of the year. So how perfect. 57 days from the Pope's birthday and 143 days from his meeting with the Pope. Also 1 month and 27 days. And here, I'll just type in Scottish Rite of Freemasonry real quick so you can see the ritual. 127, 143. You football fans, you might have just saw the other week the Saints receiver they put up on Monday Night Football, the night that Drew Brees was playing the Colts, and he passed Peyton Manning, who played for the Colts, like how Peyton's father, Archie, played for the Saints. But they put up the stat about the receiver, how he had 127 receptions, and he was chasing Marvin Harrison, the Colt, who had 143 receptions. And sure enough, when he beat that record on a pass from Drew Brees, he got his 144th, receiving for New Orleans, 144. Drew Brees, 144. Anyway, remember, American football is credited to the Scottish Rite Freemason Walter Camp, who went to Yale and was likely a member of Skull and Bones as well. Anyhow, just realize the entire world of media is run by this code, from the rigged sports games to the assassinations to the rigged elections to everything else. So anyhow, Pope Paul VI, 57 days after his birthday, JFK gets killed in the Scottish Rite's named plaza. With regards to the span of 144 days from the meeting to the death, remember, Jesuit order is 144 and 54. Dealey Plaza's 54, JFK's 54. The Jesuits have the influence within the Catholic Church. Right now we have the first publicly Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, which we'll talk more about in a moment. But notice, JFK died again in the 187th year of the U.S.'s existence. Ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is 187. That's what's etched on the House of the Temple in D.C. Society of Jesus, the full name of the Jesuits, is 187. Right now you have a Scottish President Trump, whose birthday is the flag's birthday, June 14th. From his birthday to the Pope's birthday, December 17th, is a span of 187 years. Don't forget that Trump attended the Fordham University Jesuit School 52 years before becoming president. Melania wore baby blue, the first to do so since Jackie had Inauguration Day. Trump's a big old Mason too, and Kabbalist. Anyhow, Washington, D.C. also 187. George Washington, 187. The name Kennedy, 78, like Scottish, right? Like Jesuit. And the day JFK died, notice it, November 22nd, 1963, it was a date with 115 numerology. Let me see. Where's my slide at? I got the wrong slide up here. Hold on. This is the one I want. Okay, so the Jesuits and the Scottish Rite. A lot of history between these organizations, which also connects to the Bavarian Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt, who was raised by a Jesuit, who hated the Jesuits, who wanted to overthrow the Jesuits, and his plan was to create his own secret society and infiltrate the powerful Scottish Rite of Freemasonry to then go after the Jesuits. Anyhow, somewhere along the way, it seems that it all became an unholy alliance. The 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite shares the same motto as the Jesuits, which in Latin is Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, which sums to 115, like Masonic, like France. And remember, the Scottish Rite came to power in France, just like how the Jesuits were formed in France. So 115. And now we're talking about JFK, who's Catholic, who was at the Jesuit-controlled Vatican, whose death is synced with his visit with the Pope and also the Pope's own birthday that year. We'll also talk about how Jackie visited the Pope on March 11th, 1962. But anyhow, with regards to Washington, D.C., don't forget that D.C. used to be the Catholic colony controlled by the Jesuits. That's why it's between Virginia and Maryland, Virgin Mary. And now it has all the Scottish Rite influence. It's not hard to see that these are the power structures of this country. And don't forget that Masonry and Jesuit are both 84. United States of America is 84. The current Pope, Pope Francis, he's got the birth numerology that adds to 84, the first publicly Jesuit Pope. Don't forget he's the 266th Pope, Pope Francis. And the Jesuit motto, IHS in Latin, sums to 266 and 122. Pope Francis is 122. You really don't think they're operating by this code, doing everything by this code? The 266th Pope takes his position on March 13th, 13, 3-13-13. 3's the second prime, 13's the sixth prime. So in prime numbers, 3 is 2, 13 is 6. So the date is 266 in the prime number relationship that you get the first publicly Jesuit Pope. And coming back to Jackie Kennedy, her maiden name, Jacqueline Onassis, equals 266. She also met with the Pope. She met with the Pope on March 11th, 62. A date that can be written 11/3, like 113. Scottish is 113. So is Dallas. Again, Scottish Rite Freemason, George Dealey, Dallas, Texas. Notice Scottish is also 49 like Dallas. The Pope that Jackie Kennedy met with is not the same Pope that her husband met with, because that Pope took over in 1963, Paul VI. Jackie met with John the 23rd. And what's interesting about his name is the gematria. Notice the 174 and 177 like New World Order. Also the 84 like Jesuit, like Masonry. New World Order is also 75 and 69, just like Catholic Church. Again, the story is, once upon a time, the Knights Templar at the end of the Crusades secured this knowledge of Kabbalah and the ancient mystery religions and brought it back to the Catholic Church, where they began to study to use the power from it. And that's exactly what's going on to this day. Using this ancient knowledge that everyone just dismisses, oh, that's stupid, that stuff's nonsense, that's from 1,000 years ago. You know, this is how the brain-dead retard masses talk. Yeah, it might be from 1,000 years ago. Back then, 1,000 years ago, were there rulers of large empires and large populations of dumbasses like you? Oh, there was? Maybe there was something then to the practices of 1,000 years ago. Maybe that's why they're still used to this day. Maybe that's why the architecture of the nation's capital pays tribute to these civilizations from thousands of years ago. But see, the lame brain, retard fucking masses, they don't think. They just regurgitate bullshit. They say things like, oh, you watch too many movies, not realizing that everything they regurgitate learned from the media, from movies, from TV shows, from bullshit news, which is no different. Earlier we talked about how JFK died on his 178th day of his age, which is true. He also died 177 days after his birthday. Again, a number that connects to New World Order and the Pope that his wife met with. Power centers of the world. By the way, with regards to the Scottish Rite and Jesuits sharing the motto with the 32nd degree, America's 32, Scottish is 32. The nation was established on a date with 32 numerology. The Jesuits were formed in France on August 15th, 15/8. Freemasonry's 158. Sacred Geometry's 158. Very important to the secret societies. It's why the Mason symbol's the compass with the square. It's why Washington, D.C.'s architecture has all sorts of sacred geometry. And then here's a little mockery from last year. A lot of people didn't catch this story, but there was an Ambassador Hotel in Dallas, not to be confused with the one in Los Angeles where RFK was shot. It was a 115-year-old historic structure when it burned down. 115, that number again. Again, JFK killed on a 115 date, the number that connects the Jesuits and the Scottish Rite. Assassin 115, Masonic 115, killing 115. Notice Kennedy curse equals 54, like Ambassador Hotel equals 54, like Dealey Plaza equals 54, like JFK equals 54. The day that this Ambassador Hotel burned down was on May 28th, 2019, which was one day before the anniversary of John F. Kennedy's birthday. The 148th day of the year, like the word fraternal, equals 148. Freemasonic also sums to 54, as well as 63, the year of the JFK assassination. And again, just so there can be no coincidence, Bobby Kennedy, who was reportedly shot at the Ambassador Hotel by Sirhan Sirhan, let's go over this ritual. He was shot on June 5th and died on June 6th. He was shot late June 5th, died early June 6th, similar to the story of Lincoln, shot late April 14th, died early April 15th. Notice the name Robert Kennedy equals 156 and 66. Alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. When I first began, these were the only two ciphers I knew, but it was enough to see through almost everything. June 5th, the day he was shot, was the 156th day of the year. June 6th, 6/6, the day he reportedly died. Again, obviously, both dates sync perfectly with his name. The assassin was Sirhan Sirhan, which equals 66, which means Sirhan alone sums to 33, like Robert sums to 33, like Kennedy sums to 33, like how JFK was killed on 11 plus 22, 33. Again, Dealey Plaza, Ambassador Hotel, both 54, like Jesuit order, like JFK. RFK died 199 days after his own birthday. That's the 46th prime number. RFK's 46, so is Catholic, like how JFK died at age 46. 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. Catholic also sums to 35. Like how JFK was the 35th president. Catholic also sums to 71, like how Jackie Kennedy died a span of 71 days from her birthday. Again, sacrifice is 46. Genesis 46 begins with sacrifice. The dipshit yesterday said it's coincidental that Neil Peart died 46 years from the release of the band's first album, Rush, which came out in 1974. Same dipshit would probably say it's a coincidence that the member of Steely Dan, who died 46 years after the release of their first album, who died at age 67, just like Neil Peart, who died in connections to the numbers 38 and 118, just like Neil Peart. Dipshit like that might also call that a coincidence. And essentially what I'm saying is you don't want to be a dipshit, because there's way too many of them in this world. It's the reason that bullshit continues to go on every single day. You know? Morons who don't get anything. They continue to vote because they're fucking retards. If you're voting in 2020, you are fucking retarded. Period. End of discussion. If you're not questioning things like JFK assassination, 9/11, moon landing, all this Masonic bullshit, you're a fucking retard. Period. End of discussion. And the problem is there's way too many fucking retards who make fun of people who question, which is just pathetic. If you're not questioning, you truly are fucking retarded. You're in no position to be making fun of anyone. It's you who's the problem. It's not terms like conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat. By the way, apply gematria to those terms and see what pops out. Tinfoil hat equals the same thing as conspiracy and a whole lot more. But again, to not be questioning obvious lies, I mean, they're just so fucking obvious. 9/11, I mean, how fucking dumb do you gotta be? Buildings turned to dust in midair in Manhattan. They call the site Ground Zero, which means the definition of Ground Zero is the point above or below ground where a nuclear or atomic bomb explodes. Oh, well, that would explain how 110-story buildings turned to dust in Manhattan, home of the Manhattan Project. But see, fucking retards, they can't see the obvious. It's just all put in front of your face. Bullshit every day that makes no fucking sense. And they just know, the people who do it. They go, just watch the fucking retards out there. They'll eat it up. They'll shout down everyone who questions it, these fucking retards. Our little pet lemmings that we love, that we raised from the cradle to the grave. Addicted them to bullshit their whole life. Oh, by the way, the day RFK was shot, date with 35 numerology for one more Catholic. JFK's birthday was May 29th, the 149th day of the year, the 35th prime. The whole election was a big 35 ritual, him versus Nixon. And oh, by the way, when RFK was shot, the election that year was on November 5th, 115. And he was shot 153 days before the election at the Ambassador Hotel 153, Jesuit Order 153, Holy Bible 153. Again, the Bible, the English translations as we know it, as mutilated as it has the fingerprints of the Masons and the Jesuits all over it. The deaths of the two brothers, or the dates they were shot, were 1,657 days apart, which is the 260th prime number. That's a number from the New Testament. Christians, Catholics. The address of the Ambassador Hotel, 3400 Wilshire, 3400, Murder 34, Lincoln 34. Wilshire Boulevard, also 86, like Blood Sacrifice. There's actually a whole lot more to that Wilshire Boulevard, and let you explore it based on things we already talked about. But yeah. Anybody who watches this and thinks this is a coincidence, you are truly a fucking retard, and you are what's wrong with the world. And realize there's also a whole lot more to this. If you haven't read my book, entire chapter on the Kennedy curse, chapter on the Kennedy assassination as well, with even more information, because there's just a ton to it. So this video is dedicated to the dipshit who said 38-118, this is so dumb, you're just making this up. Yep, you fucking retard, I'm just making it up. No hope for the fucking losers of this world. Here, I'll take one call and then we'll sign off. Caller?
Hey, what's up? I just wanted to, are you still live?
Yep.
I just want, that's so funny, because I was just talking about this with someone yesterday, and, you know, we all know, everyone knows that the government is, 30 to 50 years ahead of us.
The retards don't know anything. They'd say, oh, that's so dumb, that's so dumb.
Yeah, and the only argument that they get, oh, he just was, there's people there, I mean, come on. The more you learn, I think, since they've started putting the news on TV, it's all just been a big show, and no one can prove otherwise.
Well, and people are just so dumb. I mean, they'll always say, there's no way that secrets could be kept. Oh, there's no way? Well, did you notice that your government's run by secret societies? Do you know that part of the process is that when they become members, they, gather with blindfolds and have a room full of powerful men point daggers and swords at their chest?
Everyone knows that there's classified material. What's that? Open for the public?
Exactly. It's all secrecy. And the same retards will go, well, they have to keep some secrets because people... And it's like, oh, I thought you just said they couldn't keep secrets. I know. You talk to the idiot masses, They don't make any sense at all. They're just fucking losers, flapping their lips, no brain power. Yeah, it's just... I'm sick of these fucking lemmings, man.
It's like arguing with a wall. Really.
It's like they all need to be turned into fertilizer, really. There's the problem, man. There needs to be a major event. There needs to be a fucking war, man, because all of these brain-dead fucking lemmings are going to take us all to hell. If we don't get rid of these fucking losers, these mindless dipshits that just follow and believe and don't question anything and go along with the wars and all the bullshit, we're all going to die for it. People need to think about that.
Yep. People don't question anything. That's why I tell people a naive public is the biggest threat to our national security.
Yeah.
So
100%. It's why we're all getting fucked in the ass every day. It's all why we're paying all these bullshit taxes. We're in a nation where we're not supposed to get fucked in the ass with taxes. No one gets fucked in the ass worse than us, and nobody says anything. And it's because of the brain dead marching populace that just goes along with anything and questions nothing.
Well, and the thing is the people that do get fed up and do get sick of it. Who are they mad at? They're mad at shadows on a wall, you know.
They're mad at people like me. They're mad at the conspiracy theorists. Yeah, it's just, people are mad at all the wrong things. So, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is either, but it is frustrating. All we can do is just talk to everyone we can, but, I mean, we can't rely on these, you know, YouTube keeps messing with stuff. Google, you know, censors everything. I mean,
it's why there needs to be a mass gathering of people in the nation's capital and all the state capitals and people who are ready to do something. Burn it all down to the ground. It all doesn't exist anymore. History's over. We're moving on. Fuck this government. It's gone. They're not doing shit.
Well, it just seems like something's coming. So, I don't know. I mean, you think people would get fed up of that? I mean, there's...
Well, the only thing that's going to be coming is the next orchestrated event by the powers that shouldn't be. The problem is the people aren't dictating what comes next. They're just following along and falling into the next trap set for them. That's what has to stop.
Yeah, and like, it seems... in like the last week or so, I swear, I've never felt more like living in 1984. You know? I've had to calm down so many people thinking that World War III is coming. You know what? There's not a country of people, not a country of tailheads, you know, that want to kill you for your freedoms. You know, there's not a gunman behind every tree and around every corner that wants to shoot you or your kids. You know, it's just, I don't know.
Right. That's what the morons have been made to believe, and what they don't question, and they realize.
We're the fear mongers. Yeah, we're the fear mongers.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I know it, man.
But what can you do? Keep at it, I guess. But it's frustrating. I don't know.
I guess what we can do is get enough people to bring some gasoline to D.C. and set the fucking fire, man, because I'm telling you, that's what's got to happen.
Yeah, if there's a wall that needs built, it needs built right around D.C. Let them all, and anyone that believes in them, stay in there.
Yeah. All right, man, I appreciate it.
All right, have a good day, man.
See you. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying things that are the same reason the FBI came to my house last time, but I'm just so fucking sick of it, man. Well, how much longer are we going to sit here and get dicked around and bullshitted to and let fucking retards laugh at us? I mean, all these people who laugh at us are people who truly like getting fucked in their ass. You know? They must pack their ass every day with the KY so they can get raped some more. I love how Big Brother rapes me every day. I love eating up their bullshit. It's a pathetic society we live in. And it's got to change. It's got to change. It's not going to change unless people do something. So my goal is to finish up the book I'm writing, which is targeted going after secret societies and why we need to wake up to the influence of secret societies and why it's not good to have secret societies around us and, controlling government and media as they do. Trying to compact it down into a small enough book that the ADD-riddled public will actually take the time to read, which isn't much time at all, so I'm making it short and powerful. And once I feel like it's good and ready, going to get that thing in print and maybe set up a tent right in front of the White House, in front of the House of the Temple, be a homeless dude around town passing out books. Do it for 47 straight days. So, urge people to bring their gasoline cans so we can burn it all to the ground once enough people know. All right, we'll leave it there. Till next time, Truth Seeker.